Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Machine gun. Okay. Hey guys, how are you? Good, I hope. Original link to the video, top of the description. Let's learn about guns.
It was an exceptionally effective
with Dan
infantry
Snow.
rifle. But the weapon that's most...
Sorry, let's go. Let's go.
The Lee Enfield was an exceptionally effective infantry rifle. But the weapon that's most associated with the First World War and did much to force the infantrymen into trenches
Vickers
was this, the machine gun. This is a Vickers Maxim Mark I.
I love when I get something right. Oh, I'm so smart.
First introduced in 1912.
Something tells me that we've been through something of an industrial revolution here.
We definitely have. It happened while you weren't looking, I'm afraid.
This is not quite the equivalent of a brown bess musket. Like, it's not an infantryman's personal weapon. This would have needed a bit of a crew, but it's not. It does a similar job, doesn't it?
It's still portable, but in terms of the firepower, it's just orders of magnitude over and above.
It's a beast, isn't it? It's a steel product of a transformation, how we built things and made things.
So this is for the water for the cooling of the barrel, right? The thick thing.
Could not have produced this prior to the very late 19th century, essentially. You could design it, but you couldn't realize it and make it work.
Right, so we've just done the brown bess. That's only 100 years before, really, isn't it? There's only a 100-year gap, if that. We've been looking at the brown bess, 3-ish shots a minute, 50 meters, 100 meters maximum. What's the equivalent stats on this?
People tend to imagine it set up, firing sort of level, attacking troops, something like that. So that's probably the closest equivalent we'd have to how you'd use a brown bess. And even then, you're looking at 800 yards, 1,000 yards, the ability to hit a man at 1,000 yards, if you're good enough.
So if you can make them out clearly, you can hit.
Yeah, and 550 rounds per minute.
That's crazy.
A little bit more than 3.
You could, if there's open fields ahead of you, there's troops advancing towards you, really the only limit on your ability to knock down every single target in that space is what just sheer number of bullets you have with you. And this, presumably, that gets very hot, right? So is this sleeve here full of water, or is this air-cooled?
That is full of water, yeah. That's really perhaps the only meaningful difference between this and a modern machine gun is that we've moved away from water cooling because it makes the whole thing very heavy. But in terms of ultimate robustness and reliability in the 1914 period, you cannot beat this thing. If something breaks, you can swap the part out in seconds, and the barrel is just kept, you can 600 rounds continuous before you start to boil the water in that, and you can still shoot past that. So it does take a fair bit of manpower.
Aren't there some guns too where you have like 2 or 3 barrels and you can just keep rotating them? When one gets too hot, you switch it out with another barrel, and then the same for the next one, and by the time you get around, the other one's cool again, right?
And a lot more training and expertise and nous than an SMLE, an Enfield rifle, and certainly a lot more than a brown bess.
And I guess the British Army went to war with what they used to say, sort of 2 per battalion, didn't they? But I mean, presumably, once the war started, they realised just how valuable these things were.
Oh, they ramped it up as hard as they could. And of course, you had the Lewis light machine gun supplementing it, which meant you could create this new machine gun corps of, I mean, I won't say special forces, but specialist troops who did nothing but eat, sleep, breathe this gun, knew it inside and out.
Each machine gun needed a team of 6 men to keep it firing in battle. Everyone had a clearly defined role, from carrying ammunition to range taking, firing the weapon to feeding in the ammunition.
Quite rightly, you're not going to let me fire this one. What do you want me to do?
I'll be number 1, so shooting the thing. You be the loader, essentially, the number 2. So
guys. I want to say it was a Japanese machine gun. I've seen some machine guns that have these kind of flat 1 to 2 foot long magazines or flip. I don't really know the difference. That it's rigid, it's this flat thing. You stick it in and it just goes right to the other side. And then you have the more belt, more flexible type one. And I wonder what the pros and cons are to both of those.
The box of ammunition there, as we have, ready to go. and you'd feed it into the
I'll
gun.
feed the belt through here.
Yep. As I'm cocking it.
Right, let's go. So I probably want some ear defenders, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I think we're ready?
Let's do it. That was like being punched in the face repeatedly. The power of this weapon.
It's pretty impressive. Yeah, a sustained burst like that has a lot of impact.
But it's tiring to operate. Imagine if you're firing sustained. I mean, that was a short burst in trench terms, wasn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, 25 rounds is sort of a standard burst. You could do less, you could do more.
I really like this guy. He's not he seems to know a lot. I say that from just a few videos like this on History Hit of watching gun type videos, because I know next to nothing about guns, and just having someone, he's not cocky, but he clearly knows his stuff and seems pretty trustworthy and everything. I don't know. I
But yeah, that's
gravitate.
really just a taster.
That is the noise the First World
That even makes sense.
War.
It was a devastating weapon, both offensively and also at short range like this, in a defensive role. Now we're going to aim at the gel block. The effect is horrifying.
So this is the impact of the Industrial Revolution on firepower, isn't it? 4 rounds and you've obliterated the target. And you can do that reliably again.
Absolutely, yeah, repeatably. It's automated destruction, essentially.
And so we're looking here at the big exit wounds in particular. What does the casualties back, presumably? You can see the front, think something your mate might be all right, but then you'd turn them over and you'd see there was no hope.
What you're looking at is the combined effect, as you say, of those 4 rounds. You know, it's a rifle times 4, or however many times you get hit. Now, this thing weighs a lot less than a person, so it jumped out of the way. Otherwise, it would have kept on firing, and it would have been hit with even more. And that's the classical image of the machine gun in that defensive role.
The point of hitting him with more at that point, that guy is dead.
With even more. And that's the classical image of the machine gun in that defensive role and someone just getting annihilated. And this is a simulation, effectively, of that.
And the other thing, of course, this gun could do that to this target up to what kind of range?
Oh, good grief. Well, you know, properly dialed in, you could hit with 4 rounds at, 1,000 yards or more. I mean...
Which is a gigantic step change from the Brown Bess, which is only really just over 100 years before.
It's astonishing. The pace of change in the 19th century, and this is a product of the 19th century, although it comes in 1912, the pace of change is phenomenal. This is what really blows, even my mind studying this, is, if you were a boy soldier at Waterloo with a flintlock musket, as a Chelsea pensioner, you could have been behind having a go on a Maxim gun.
What we're looking at here is...
That's
is
pretty
the reason
crazy.
for those.
But I mean, you could be born. I was gonna make a comparison in the 20th century. Like you could be born World War I and then be flying jet airplanes. Same time range, right?
Infamous, horrific casualty figures that we're all so familiar with from the First World War.
Essentially, I mean, even one bullet in a limb might be enough for amputation. Well, this is the effect of multiples. The bone in here has been at least fractured. Yeah. It's very unpredictable as to what goes on inside the human body, and of course, a surgeon's nightmare to repair.
So we can see extremely, you're right on target there, those little entry wounds there, but the scale of the injuries can be seen by the exit wounds on this side here. A piece of blown out the back of there. This weapon's so associated with those terrible casualty lists, the scale of death and injury that you see on the Western Front and elsewhere in the First World War, isn't it?
It absolutely is, yeah. I mean, regardless of the majority of casualties coming from artillery, I think that what's in people's minds when they think about the First World War, and the trenches especially, is the machine gun, just rattling away, doing this to people.
Guys, I wonder in World War I, other than like combat weapon related deaths, like disease or something, I don't know, like what were you most likely to be taken out by? Was it like if you averaged all of the direct deaths, again, not counting disease and whatnot, an artillery shell, a machine gun, a regular rifle, or a poison gas? I'm curious, what was the leading? I'm assuming machine gun. That would be my guess.
Like July 1st, the bloodiest day in the history of the British Army, when those German machine guns just played on those troops marching across no man's land.
It's the ultimate gun in the sense of velocity, penetration, all the tissue damage it can do, and the precision at range as well. It's, you know, there are more advanced firearms since the Maxim, the Vickers gun, but in some ways it is the ultimate gun.
Really cool. I'd appreciate any answers to my questions, guys. Post lunch, kind of tired, but love it. Love learning. And I'm going to do another video right now. See you guys next time. Bye.